There's been a lot of talk about digital transformation and, in the same breath, digital disruption. Some people say it creates an imperative or an opportunity for HR to reposition itself from chief talent executive to chief employee experience officer. My question, what's your take on this? Who sets the agenda and who should lead? Or if I can put it another way, what is the role of HR in leading the digital transformation agenda?
I think at this stage it's more about the opportunity to HR. They have the opportunity to lead that agenda and start setting the pace of change. But there has to be a point where we are raising ourselves beyond a system replacement and looking at what ways we can actually impact the performance of an organisation in a much more positive way. At the moment, the way that things happen in system upgrades, if you're looking at HR and the technology piece of ways, is I'll just get the new shinier version of the ERP system that I had before. Yep, and it's quite a safe cost case, nothing happens much, that gets a business case for it. Sometimes it gets realised, sometimes and often it doesn't. So it's about breaking out of some of the safe thinking and moving on to a different place where value can be added. I think the challenge is then the CEOs will start demanding more of somebody in their organisation to bring this change forward, because they'll be aware of what's going on in the market, or they'll start to have interactions. And I think that provides a danger and also an opportunity to start changing. So I think it can come from those two directions. I think it's then within the gift of HR around about, do we want to grasp this and take it forward?
I look at this with sort of two lenses. There's the very sort of finite point in time, what can we do better kind of question, and then there's the far bigger picture to the impact of digitization on the workforce, because to me it's a much bigger deal. And I'm actually busy this month publishing a series of 4 blogs on the nature of the human experience and what we can learn from myths and legends. It's quite fun, but to look at it as a just-in-time, as a finite thing. The point about improving the employee experience, on the one hand, making something electronic is supposed to make it more efficient, scalable, replicable, higher quality, more consistent. Those kind of values have always existed to introducing systems to help us with things. But from our experience with workforce change, what happens is that the workforce has to get some value out of something to adopt it, right? So for my purposes, I wouldn't suggest that the first thing to do is assume you're going to become more digital about something. I would say you need to pick a problem that is best solved by digital. So a case in point, for example, we have, you're probably aware of IBM and the Apple partnership, right? So we're creating Apple apps for enterprise clients. And something as simple as shift sharing or changing can be debilitating to organizations with a lot of staff that are working shifts. When somebody doesn't pitch, they have a marked impact on customer satisfaction for that shift and often on revenue created during that shift, right? It disengages the colleagues around them who are forced to work harder, and in already a transient workforce, because a lot of those shift-based jobs that are customer facing are quite transient workforces relatively, not sort of lifetime commitments. You then have an increased attrition actually as a result of simply not getting people to manage their shifts right. We've got an Apple app now that just helps people swap in and out shifts. They've got a request, they put a request onto the dashboard, anybody in their store can pick up the shift, the manager can see that the shift has happened. You can log on at any point 24/7 to be sure you know your shift, so there's no excuse about that. So you retain accountability for your working pattern, and the manager can still see if anybody's working too much or too little. But ultimately, day to day, the reduction in absence is phenomenal. But the nature of adoption there was driven by the fact it was a user-friendly mobile app that everybody could understand intuitively from day one, and they saw a value in it for them. They could have a more flexible working life. So again, where we're adopting, for HR solutions, and you might say that's a business problem rather than an HR problem, but it's a workforce opportunity to capitalize on. Let's find the things where that improved employee experience is actually going to enrich, that value is well invested, right? Because it's actually going to bring us an outcome that's relevant to the business rather than just nice to have stuff. So even in performance management, a better system with a better interface, with a better user experience, it's more intuitive, is more likely to be used, and therefore the value to the business of a whole process change gets realized as opposed to left at the door.